Right, so some people are wondering, is there anything wrong with what Israel has been doing in Gaza?
Prepare to fight.
Is it wrong to kill 1,000 people when 13 people have been killed by your enemies?
The Force will be with you, always.
I guess the answer is this. If you live in a house, big house, and next door someone is living in a kind of a smallish shack, and let's say every day they throw stones at you, and then you go over there eventually one day and you set fire to everything around the shack, you kick in the walls and so on, and then you go back to your house. Do you really think that the stone throwing is going to stop that? Basically what you're doing that is you are creating a terrorist on your doorstep. Because you're not making friends, you are really making enemies. So enemies really should still be able to have some respect for one another. I'm not saying that Israel's enemies are innocent, but I'm saying Israel is creating a scenario where they can really expect an escalation because of the manner in which they've escalated the situation. And this is what happens when your psychology is based on what is it again? I'm not sure. Your psychology is based on
Prepare to fight.
It's on the tip of my tongue. It's something about when you just, I can't remember what it is.
The Force will be with you, always.
Of killing people constantly and fighting the whole time is based on...
the Force will be with you, always.
It's on the tip of my tongue. It is something to do with... I really believe that the 2010 World Cup is going to be a very difficult proposition. I've believed this since South Africa was given the job of doing it. Look, I'm not against the whole idea if the situation in the world was different and if the situation in South Africa was different. In a perfect world, having an event like this in South Africa, great. The reality is we have more crime in this country than people dying in Iraq. There are over 50 people murdered every single day in South Africa. And the government doesn't really care. The government has disbanded the major crime fighting unit. The government in fact uses crime for its own means to stay in power by killing bodyguards of presidents, by assassinating certain people, and this is likely to get worse. And so what's crime got to do with the Soccer World Cup? Well, a few things. The level of corruption is just really high. Also, that's a huge amount of taxpayers' money spent to build massive monuments, massive stadiums, which you wonder when it's 2011, 2012, what are those stadiums actually going to be used for? I've attended rugby matches in, say, the Free State Stadium, and they often, this is before the developments, and they are often 1/3 full. Now we're building stadiums much bigger and at huge expense, and all the billions that were already allocated, they've already run out. So they're going to need more money. And I've attended a World Cup in South Korea, and I remember for many games they had to march thousands of school children and students to just give the stadiums a semblance of being occupied. And I remember the particular game I watched was South Africa against Croatia. No one was interested in watching it. And there were many games like that where the Koreans themselves had to occupy the stadiums to make them not seem completely empty and a complete waste of space. And I can really foresee the same thing happening here. I can see games between certain countries, no one really attending them, a handful of games being attended, but I really doubt whether we'll see many games where the stadiums are absolutely packed. The final, the semi-finals, but other than that, that's real. To spend billions just on 2 or 3 soccer matches, to me, is an incredible waste of time. And it's on a par with what the Chinese did, building the Bird's Nest Stadium. All the hype, all the hubris regarding the world's eyes on China, and now that big stadium is standing around, nothing's happening. Huge amount of effort, huge amount of money, and that money could have been used to, prop up the economy, to stimulate jobs for the newly disenfranchised. And now all you have is this huge monument to excess. All you have is paint peeling off this huge cage. So it's that sort of unconscionable, what one really needs to premeditate those sort of massive commitments of money. The problem is the people who are premeditating it are the people who stand to gain from it. And they're in the minority, they're quite a small number. And this is why I say I'm not sure if it was such a good thing that the World Cup came in, because that money could have been allocated to something else, to crime fighting for one. So I'm not pouring water on the idea of the World Cup itself, but the money spinning going on is what I do have a problem with. And then also the fact that the people don't really benefit as much as they could. And suppose you could argue if it didn't come at all, well, no one would benefit.